Well, it was awesome putting the tape on and watching the guys, how they executed. It was kind of like we thought, and played at a very high level, and both phases for sure. And I think the guys are improving, and I really like how they're practicing during the week. It's just been showing up. I think our scout team's been doing a nice job, and we challenged our scout team last week just because BYU is such a hard offense to replicate, and they did a great job. They really did, and it showed up on Saturday of giving us a lot of great looks that were clean reps we got. So all that was impressive to see, and now we're on to the Bruins.
When it looked like, and Jake was finding a lot of receivers underneath, it looked like the DBs were kind of playing deep, trying to keep things in front of them. And it didn't look like that really changed throughout the game a lot. Was that something that surprised you?
Not at all. That's what we said on the Monday before. Like, that's their style. Like, that's why we had to run the ball. They play soft, and they're good at it, and they keep things in front of them. So the couple shots that we hit downfield was great to see, because they make you earn those, and it takes some really good pass protection to be able to wait to let those receivers push downfield. And Jake hit a deep one, kind of crossing route to Andre. That was really nice throwing it in there, because there was kind of a small window for that far downfield. And so, that didn't surprise us at all. Their style did not. They did what we thought they were going to do, and our guys executed.
Did you see yet another step from the offensive line Saturday?
For sure. Like I said, after the game, we were really pleased with how they ran the ball, and then to give Jag a chance to set his feet in there and look at some things, it was very clean. I mean, he's not going to have the numbers he has, Jake, without the O-line doing some really good stuff.
Speaking of Jake and your experience as a former coordinator, can you talk a little bit about the relationship between Bush and Jake and how that's been developing, and especially when it comes to play calling and Bush trying to find what he does well and what Jake's confident in?
Yeah, well, it's not like Bush is just around here, this year for the first time. So there's some pretty good history with those guys knowing each other. And, I think for the most part, almost everything runs through the QB. I mean, if he's not feeling something, it doesn't matter if we are or Bush is. I mean, Jake has to feel like this is good stuff. And so I think, and the time that Jake puts in around here, those guys are always in cahoots with, the plan. But Jake's, he's awesome about it, because he's seen a lot of football, and we can throw a lot of things at him, and he's good with it. But then there'll be certain things that we could go either way with, adding plays or not adding plays or calling plays. And we'll check with him on the sideline. Hey, do you like this or do you like that? And I think that's smart coaching, and Bush does a great job of that.
How much do you think that the last couple of games have been a reflection of that development?
I think they got a great relationship. I think they have from the start, and I think they, I don't really think like that's like improving and blossoming. I think we're just kind of figuring out who we are in offense and getting our identity, because I think every year is different. You lose a few guys, and certainly you put a new play caller in there, and even though it's subtle differences, I think it takes some time to really kind of figure out, hey, what you're going to be really good at this year. And I think that's kind of how it's been going.
You went right back to Savon after the fumble. I think he may have scored on that drive. Is it different if BYU recovers that ball? Does that kind of change your mindset, how you kind of react to a player?
That's all Keith Bonifa, and I think he does a great job with those guys. And I think after he fumbled, he had him come out and probably just had him take a deep breath. And I think it's important to, put him back in there, which he did, and which I think we all wanted him to do. I mean, those guys work as hard as anybody around in terms of ball security, but sometimes defenders make really good plays, which the defender did. I mean, he caught him from behind, which doesn't happen much with Savon when he's putting a move on, and just caught him sleeping. And so I think it's a good lesson, and build on it. Sorry.
How would you describe your offensive identity through these first 5 games?
Multiple. Balanced. That's what I would hope.
Is that kind of always the hope?
Always. That's what we want to be, and I think we have been. Now, that doesn't mean it's going to be like that every game, but I think in general that's what it is. We got a really good tailback and a really good quarterback, and so we'd like to run the ball, and we'd like the quarterback to throw it, and so I just, I think that's how most people would like to be, and I kind of think that's how we are right now.
You mentioned
Are quarterbacks, four-year quarterbacks increasingly rare now in college football? And did you have any at Boise State?
We did. Yeah, we had Kellen, and we had a 3-year player before that. But I think they are. I think it's rare. I don't know if it's more rare, It might be because some of those guys come in more prepared, and maybe they're so good they leave early. I don't know. But I think in general it's rare to have a 4-year starting quarterback.
What advantage have you seen in that this year with Jake?
Well, I think there's tremendous advantage, especially when it's a guy like Jake. I mean, just the tone that he sets for our culture, and let alone getting to the field. That'll be a weird time when he's not here. All the time that we've spent together and all the comfort that he gives us, just knowing that he's always going to do the right stuff and how hard he works and what he's done for us.
You mentioned earlier the scout team really played even maybe a more significant role. You talked just a little bit about how they prepare, because you almost have to put in a game plan for them, right? They're going to be replicating something that they don't see every day, and the quality of that is really important to you. How do you kind of do that at the same time you're game planning for the starters and so on?
Well, I think, it comes from our coaches. They're looking at, they got to pick and choose what we really need to spend our time on, especially as you get a little bit more into the season, because there's a lot of football plays that show up on tape. And sometimes they're just game plan things. Sometimes they're kind of one-hit wonders. And so you're trying to sift through all the minutia and get to like who they are and what they do. So it starts there, and then you put it on cards for the kids to see. But there can be a lot of sophistication with some of these things that are going on. So just to draw it on a card and show them in the huddle is not going to be good enough. So you put them in a meeting and you show what it looks like on tape. And these meetings these kids have, are really, really quick and really short. And so they really have to be locked in and focused and take tremendous ownership of how important this is. And then be able to block our good guys. It's usually younger guys going against the older guys. And so there's a lot there. And we put a lot of pressure on those guys to, really execute at a high level, because it's just not worth it if, we don't give them the look. And sometimes, I can get extremely frustrated out there if that look is not what it needs to be. And the kids have done a great job.
Looking at the film of UCLA, what is it that stands out to you about UCLA?
Well, I think they're improving, is what I think. We all get how hard it is to be new, to be a new staff, putting your system and how you do everything. But we know a lot of these guys at UCLA in terms of not only the coaches, but also the players that they have. And so you can see them improving. They're playing a lot of young guys, and each week they're getting a little bit better. And obviously the respect we have for Chip and his staff. And those are smart guys, and they'll stick to their process and their script, and those guys will continually get better.
Does it look like his old system from Oregon, or is it kind of morphed with his NFL experience?
Yeah, I think it's hard to know right now, because I think they're still building and putting that all together. But I think there's some NFL influence and those type of things. But you certainly see, the old days as well.
Is the Rose Bowl still a special place for kids today? And growing up, it was the Rose Bowl.
Yeah.
The playoff comes around, it kind of changes all that. But does it still feel like a special place for kids today?
That's a great question, because it's been so long since any of us have been down there to play a game. I don't know. I think it's always great to go down to Southern California and play down there, and so many of our kids are from there, and whether it's the Rose Bowl, the calls, that's all good stuff.
From a guy who grew up in California too, is that something you dreamed about maybe as a kid, kind of getting a chance?
Are you just talking about playing that thing or going to the Rose Bowl?
Well, I know it's a separate thing, obviously, but the venue and the feeling there. I different, but.
Yeah, I think it's different, but yeah, but I think you like to play in storied venues, and that is a place that I think I've been there one time, maybe twice, playing in all my time. So I haven't been down there a whole bunch. No, that's what I'm saying. Not as a head coach, but yeah, like maybe only one time even as an assistant. So yeah, it'll be good to go down there and be in there.
You mentioned the whole idea of a lot of players being from down there, getting to play in front of friends and family. And I know how you try to place an emphasis on trying to approach each game consistently.
Yeah.
Does that give them, is it something where they circle it on the calendar and they go, okay, we're going to, this is going to feel a little different because this is so close to home and what that could mean to them?
Yeah, I think, probably the kids that are from there, and their families and friends will be there. So I think that, that is different. And, I mean, it's no different from us playing in Utah and some of those kids that we have from Utah and Ty Jones and company. And, I know that that's always an interesting thing for those guys to go home. We just have more of them from probably Southern California than, elsewhere besides Washington.
When Chip Kelly ran his offensive style at Oregon, defenses were having trouble matching the speed. Do you think they're adapting better now to that whole system?
Well, yeah, I think we've seen a lot of that, and I think Chip's kind of evolved and adapted. I don't think he's all as fast as he, has been. I think it's about tempo, picking and choosing your spots when you're going to go fast, and that seems to be a little bit of the new stuff in college football.
A number of recruits at the BYU game like you do at a lot of home games, obviously, but how important or how beneficial is it for them to see the stadium full like that and see a win and all those things?
Yeah, I think all that's great. I mean, like I said, the last 2 weeks have been awesome playing at home in front of crowds like that, and it's fun. It just makes it fun, I think for everybody to be involved in venues like that. That's what I think about college football, and I think it's different than even pro football. Just when you have a packed stadium, half of it's students, and then you get the long time season ticket holders. It's just a unique blend, and I know everybody really enjoys being there when it's like that, including the recruits.
I want to ask you a question.
Oh, here we go.
I feel like you might get mad, so just promise you won't get mad. I'll ask you. During the game Saturday, Jake was closing in on the national record for completion percentage.
Yeah.
Are you ever even remotely aware of something like that during a game?
I said after the game, I had no idea he completed that many passes. If we did, it wouldn't change a darn thing, if that's what you're getting at. What are we going to call an easier pass for him to complete? We wouldn't do that. Do we need to go through our stat philosophy around here again? Okay. Yeah. No, we truly was not even kind of aware of that. And it wouldn't change anything. You just play the game to try to score points.
What do you think of Chico's role right now?
I think that I'm amazed that Chico physically is where he is right now at this time, just because of the two significant injuries he had on, last year. And, he's a unique guy physically in terms of how strong he is and how he's recovered and all those things. Now, that just because you've recovered physically doesn't mean you're totally up to game speed and, in a groove and all those things. And so I think we're still working through some of that. But he'll get there. And, the interesting thing about it is, we actually have a bonus year with him. And we're not, I had this conversation with him. We still got this very important year right here, but before the old redshirt rule came in with 4 games, it was like right at the cutoff for last year. And so, that was a blessing if he guy's going to get hurt when he did, to be able to get this year back, and this isn't his senior year. So he'll get there.
Where would you say he's at percentage-wise? He's not at 100 yet.
Physically?
Yeah.
He's 100. I don't know. What am I, a psychologist? You know, yeah, degrees are overrated. What does that matter? I'm not a psychologist. I'm a coach. What's that?
People up on campus here say.
Yeah. Jeez.
I guess.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, he is, but it's like, I just think all that, the stuff that he's been through takes a while to get going, and then just even if you're 100%, you know, ready to go and in the season, you still have ups and downs, and you gotta, you know what I mean, you gotta power through those things, and there's good streaks and not so good streaks and all that kind of stuff that he'll get there.
How far was the sideline at the end of the game to try and get that shutout?
Oh, yeah. Well, I think everybody in that stadium was. You know, I mean, those are hard to come by and rare, and it was just really good to see the kids competing that hard. You know, we had some of the guys that haven't played a whole bunch in there, and I really liked that, their mentality and how hard they were fighting, and they made it hard I mean, took everything BYU had to get in that end zone, and you know, it was good to see.
Chris, going back to offense real quick. Are you guys finding that you're maybe going under center a little bit more this year than maybe you guys have in the last couple of years? Are you starting to see, like, you trying to get ahead of a trend, go back to physical?
We're not trying to get ahead of a trend. We just like being under center, and we've always said that. I think the run game's a little bit different. We want to be under center for our quarterbacks. We don't want to be one of these teams that's just always in the shotgun. It might be better in some rationale to, you know, always be in the shotgun, just because of less reps under. And, you know, it's amazing how much work that can take to be under center, and the timing and the snaps and the different things. You think about the quarterback, but also the center and how his blocking is different from when he's snapping in the shotgun or not. So there's a lot to it, but we want that expense. We just think it's important in terms of who we are.
What is it about being under center that you had your way? You like that more?
I just like turning around and handing the ball to the tailback as deep as we can, and him coming downhill, and I think there's some play action off it that's different that, you know, maybe getting back to Chris's point of, you know, there's not a bunch of that out there these days, but we've just always had success with that. So we know the problems that can come with some of that run game and pass game as well. And so that's the thing that you see is, like, part of it is you start, there's only so many battles you can pick and choose out there, because whoever has the chalk last, they can stop you. And so now we're opening up a new can of worms. Okay, well, if they do this, then we have to go this direction. Some of the stuff that we've done for a long time, we know what the issues are going to be. We already can be one step ahead. Okay, if they're going to go here, then we have to go there. And are we willing to spend that time, you know, in practice to get good at that? And that's always the cat and mouse game we're playing.
The stretch runs to the outside, the stretch handoffs do for your offense when you have guys that are speedy and quick like Savannah Miles?
Yeah, that helps. You know, a lot of times they don't get all the way outside, though. You know, a lot of times it's just stretching it and getting vertical. So much of that has to do with how the O-line blocks it. They have to read it correctly. But, you know, I think anytime you have speed in the backfield, that always helps.
There were, I think, 3 holding calls, I think all on those outside, those stretch handoffs. Are those just harder to block, especially on the edge?
I don't think they were all on that. I think we had 1 or 2 on, well, one we was on a receiver, and then we might have had one there. Yeah. Sometimes the receivers have to hold up longer out there if the ball's going to bounce all the way out there. But it's just, we just got to clean up our technique. That's nothing like, wow, this is a problem. It's just like not using good technique.
You're playing on grass Saturday.
Yep.
You don't have a grass field to practice on. Is that ever problematic, or does that change things?
Not at all. Yeah, let's go play. Yeah, it is what it is.
They're trying to hunt down a place to prepare for a game like this?
Too hard, can't do it, not with school.
Yeah.
There's not much grass around here, and, you know, We'd have to take hours to go get that done, and not going to happen.
What about playing up against a true freshman quarterback? It seems like, at least on paper from the outside, it would be easy. Oh, you just pressure him and, getting his face and whatnot. But are there some challenges that maybe come with a guy that's...
When you can run like he can, there's challenges. He does some nice things. I mean, he can spin it in there, and then if you do pressure, I mean, he can get out of things. He really can. And, I know from their standpoint, it's just a matter of just him getting more and more reps and getting more comfortable with their system. But anytime you're watching anybody, you just watch them when they're playing at the level they can play at. And he does some impressive things. And I think each game he's getting better and better. So, I think you gotta keep mixing it up like we do for really any quarterback.
Do they treat him, do you think, like a true dual threat guy, or is he just a guy that, like you said, can scramble and make things happen?
Well, Chip's style. I mean, that's a little bit his style anyways, and running that zone, that inside zone, and the zone read. But he's a pocket passer. I mean, he's not jittery looking to get out of there. He'll get out of there if the whole thing collapses on him.
This league had a patella injury yesterday in Arizona. Do you have a chance to text him?
I have not, and I thought about it last night. But I just kind of wanted this to calm down, and I know he's probably got 1,000 texts, and it's a tough game, and you just count your blessings when you're healthy. And I mean, we talk to our guys about that all the time. I mean, and it's hard. Like, you're grinding through this, and if you're relatively healthy, even in this part of the early part of the season, it's a little bit of that attitude of gratitude. I mean, because it can just change so fast on you.
Another grass field down there. Do you feel like the field turf has kind of alleviated some of those injuries? Do you kind of notice that playing on field turf?
I think grass is better. I do. I just think it feels better because I'm old, and when I stand on turf, my back hurts, and it doesn't hurt when I'm on grass. So I know there's something there, and as simple as that is, I mean, really. But all the studies are out, and I don't think there's anything that says grass prevents injuries more or less than the field turf. It's a little bit like the knee brace philosophy. But it would be nice to alternate surfaces, I think.
Could you say, describe what great games means to your defense?
He means a lot. And he has for, a bunch of years for us. He's another guy that's played for us for a long time, and he's very good at what he does, obviously. But, I think you see this big old tank of a guy in the middle. But one of the things that I think about Greg is how smart he is. I mean, he really is. He is a sharp kid, and he's a smart football player. And if he says anything to me or our coaches, I mean, my ears are always perked up because he knows what he's talking about. So not only is he this really physical player, he's also a smart player to go with it. And that's, those are the kind of guys that make a lot of plays.
Levi's game show up since he got started?
Levi, excuse me, Levi played very well. And, Levi's got a lot of upside. He continues to flash, and he just needs more reps in there and continue to play at that high level. And he can do some really good stuff for us.
We talk about identity just as a team. Is there something about this team, Chris, that lends itself to maybe being good on the road, being road dogs, and doing what it takes to win on a tough game on the road?
I think we've had some good experience on the road so far, but I'll tell you that at the end of this month. 3 of the 4 are on the road, and we'll talk then. I mean, we just got a tough sled here coming in terms of all those things. I think we've gained some good experience, and I think they've done a good job for the most part on the road, but it's always different.
In spring, did you have a big discussion with Miles Gaskin about the draft, or was he set on coming back for us?
Well, not in spring, but in the wintertime after the season was over, we talked to him and his folks, and we're always trying to figure out what do we really think is the best thing for them, for Miles in general, or any of our guys. And, you know,
Convey what was most important to him about coming back?
I'm trying to think back. You know, Miles is just a football guy. I mean, that's what I think about. And he just wants to play. And he certainly wants to play at the highest level. And he will. You know, and I think it had a little bit to do maybe with his, you know, draft stock at the time. And all those things kind of come into consideration. And, you know, but we have conversations, you know, with a lot of our guys that'll be in that situation.
Excited about the afternoon kick next week?
I'm excited about this game coming up.